The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
All right.
Ben Ark from LN Biz.
Hello.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, RFK Jr. vows to back dollar with Bitcoin and exempt Bitcoin from taxes. He's also handing out lollipops and giving away gumdrops. Yes, presidential candidate RFK Jr., famously an anti-vaxxer before anti-vaxxering was cool, claiming that vaccines caused autism, is now running for president. He has a 0.0 chance of winning, and to get there, he's promised Bitcoiners the sky, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Yes, he's even saying he's getting rid of capital gains tax, almost as if he's pandering and catering to the Bitcoiners, one of whom at Bitcoin Magazine has started a PAC to support RFK Jr. Dan Eve, what do you think about anti-vaxxer RFK Jr. and his impossible run for the Democratic nomination?
Well, it's always good seeing a politician be positive about Bitcoin and on both sides now, right? Because we've got positive kind of Republicans that are positive about Bitcoin, and now we've got a Democrat who's positive about Bitcoin. I like the idea that he wants to have the dollar backed by finite real assets like precious metals, Bitcoin, etc. But 1% seems, I think he said something like 1%, which seems pretty low, right? But at least it's a starting point. And a dollar that's backed by something is better than a dollar that's backed by nothing other than ammunition and weapons and tanks and stuff. So that's cool. Abolishing capital gains for Bitcoin, that's also a pretty positive thing, right? So I think these are ultimately quite good things. And about pandering to Bitcoiners, the only thing is that they're probably about 0.0001% of the population, which is about the same percentage of the chance he's got of becoming president. So maybe that's why he's done it. There's synergies there. But it does, but I don't know how this fits in, because obviously Biden's got his 30% proposal for Bitcoin mining. Whether he hasn't mentioned anything specifically about removing that or opposing that specific Bitcoin mining tax. But when you're saying that he also used to be some sort of environmentalist lawyer, so that's he obviously doesn't seem, if that's so, it doesn't seem like he's fazed by the Bitcoin mining situation and all the energy hype that's happening. So ultimately, it's a good thing that another politician is actually standing up for Bitcoin and also saying they want to reinstate the fact that the dollar needs to be backed by something. So these are positives, despite the crazy vaccine things.
Well, I do wish, Dan, I wish he was a real Bitcoiner and he was running for president. It would be fantastic. I don't think we're going to see that, though. I think he's just pretending to be a Bitcoiner, has no interest in these actual topics. And I think it's sad for the Bitcoiners. Once again, anybody that waves the flag, they'll support. Could be North Korea, could be Iran, could be Russia, whoever it is. It's the worst possible people. And they're like, the worst people are with us. We need to wait till the best people come along. Replacing the Keynesian system with some kind of mixed Bitcoin system is just as crazy as Keynesianism, right? We're not getting any better here. He's dancing along nonsense. It just doesn't seem or ring very true to me. I'm disappointed in the candidacy of RFK Jr. I think he's going to win 0 states, 0% of the popular vote. He's going to have 0 power in Washington. And the people that donate money to him are going to get 0 out of it. There's nothing here. Ben Ark, what do you think?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, who's the leading competitor, though, apart from RFK? Is there any other
Pretty much, it's President Joe Biden.
That's it, right?
We have a pretty strong series of incumbency here in the United States. Like it or not, the president usually wins his party's nomination. It's very unlikely that RFK will have any effect on the race. He's not going to run as an independent. He's barely a Democrat. Really, again, this is a Republican trick to get people to not vote for Biden, to try to make it seem like there's unclarity in the Democrats. They don't know what they're doing. It's confusing, but really it's very clear they're going to renominate Biden. This is not a serious candidacy. And the attempts by Bitcoin Magazine and others to make it seem like a serious candidacy only makes them look like idiots. Because again, you're getting nothing. You're getting nothing. He's not going to be vice president. He's not going to be in the cabinet. He's not going to be part of any administration. I'm sad to tell you, I do like his work as an environmental lawyer, but he's a crazy anti-vaxxer. Autism existed before vaccines, yet he claims that vaccines caused autism. It's the chicken and the egg. You just can't run it this way. Ben Ark, what do you think about RFK Jr.?
Frozen. Oh dear. He's
very lost Ben. He must have taken too much of the vaccine. You're not supposed to just drink it whole hog.
Just Freddie Mercury poisoning.
He's got that heavy metal. We were doing jokes before the show. All right, we'll move on to the next issue for now. We'll see if Ben comes back. Issue 2, Greenpeace USA. We took over the New York skyline to expose BlackRock, Chase, and their Bitcoin bro CEO for fueling Bitcoin's climate change destruction. Let's watch just a little bit of Greenpeace's angry video. If you're watching at home, there's a rotating Bitcoin logo. There's a skull with Bitcoin logos and eyes. There's the world, it's smoking with a Bitcoin logo in front. Bitcoin logo is turning into a dollar. It says, Bitcoin uses more electricity. Bitcoin consumes more electricity than entire countries. It's got the usual list.
Didn't they use diesel generators?
Bigger and bigger. Lots of freeways. Bitcoin, 7.5 million gas-powered cars.
You're on the next.
Which is not really fair.
Next topic, sorry.
And they're continuing to broadcast 100% pollution, 0% safe. And then they've got Jamie Dimon as a laser-eyed Bitcoin bro. So first, let's go to Ben. Let's get your thoughts about RFK Jr. And then we're going to talk more about Greenpeace's bizarre campaign against Bitcoin.
Yeah, sorry, my laptop died there. It crashed. Yeah, the RFK guy, I mean, like you don't, in America, you don't seem to have that many good candidates for presidents, more so than other countries have bad candidates for politicians. So something's clearly going wrong, but he has popular movement and following, and he's getting the airtime. I saw him pop up on Joe Rogan and a bunch of other shows as well, and people are talking about him more and more. And I think it's like anything's possible when you see someone like Trump become president. Then, never say never. This guy might make it in. And I understand that he's not what would be considered a traditional Democrat. I mean, I obviously can't talk too much in American politics because I'm in the UK and I don't really care. But the Bitcoin stuff is kind of interesting. I think that, yeah, you're totally right that if you want to get a whole load of followers, the best thing you can go do on Twitter, the best thing you can do is go on there and say that you like Bitcoin. You're going to push some sort of Bitcoin policy. And then within this small, like enclosed social bubble, you're going to get hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of followers on your Twitter profile. And that's going to really boost you on your social demographic, but your social graph on these social networks. So I think it's good for that. And we do have to be very reluctant when these new thought leaders suddenly appear and they start telling us what Bitcoin is. We don't need to wait for the good people to come to Bitcoin because they're already here. They've been here for years. And then these new people will try and piggyback off the movement. But it is a very lucrative industry. And I think this idea of maybe pegging a percentage of greenbacks to hard assets is interesting. When it comes to like soft currency economics and being able to produce currency, a sovereign nation being able to produce currency to create aggregate demand and create growth, we see like the sort of modern monetary theory and the not Keynesian but modern monetary theorist approach and some Keynesian concepts. We see them getting abused. Keynes wasn't an idiot, and his economic models were, some of them were good ideas because you're talking about soft currencies, not hard currencies. But obviously, it's very easy to abuse that type of economics and just turn that money printer on. And I think that's what's happened. So the concept of backing a percentage to hard currencies, I think it's certainly something we should be investigated, and then maybe allocating like 1% to a basket of hard assets, because it's not just Bitcoin's basket of hard assets. It's probably a good idea to experiment with and see if it stabilizes the dollar in some way, because then the dollar isn't just backed by the force of the United States government and the debt. It's also backed by something which has some integral value, I suppose. So yeah, I think it's just like watch this space, see how he gets on. It's always perplexing, like I said, in America, like haven't you got better candidates for these things? But yeah, clearly not.
No, I would push back there. I'm not sure he's on the important shows. I think he's been on the Joe Rogan show, which again, the kind of show that would think it was funny if the Democrats would nominate a Republican, or if you could trick 20-30% of the Democrats into voting for a Republican, someone that's clearly not supportive of their ideas. RFK Jr. is not really a Democrat, much as Cornel West, who's running for the Green Party, is not really running for the presidency. These people will get 0% of the vote. They'll have 0% of the power. I'll guarantee that. It's a distraction from the actual politics that's going on. Like it or not, the incumbent wins, I'd say 99 or 100% of the time, especially when he's running for re-election. So I don't think that, with the exception of maybe Teddy Roosevelt in 1904, that the incumbent has not won their own party. So
right.
This isn't happening. It's sad that David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine is wasting his money running a super PAC to support this guy. And I think that anyone that overdoes it with their support, as many people have been doing on Twitter and other places, they're just going to end up sad. They're just going to ask themselves, why did I waste my money and time on this non-candidacy? As much as I wish we had a real Bitcoin candidate, someone from the cypherpunk realm, maybe somebody like Lawrence Lessig, who has a background in internet and internet freedom. This guy doesn't have that. This isn't that guy. He's not technical. This is not our guy. So,
we are getting some positive impressions there, though, aren't we? Which he is talking about Bitcoin a little bit in a public arena. So that's good,
It is nice, but again, it's sad that it's the anti-vax forever guy. Like Dan was saying, the guy who inspired Jenny McCarthy, the guy who taught all these people not to get vaccines, so much to the point that smallpox is making a comeback because people won't get vaccines. Measles, mumps, rubella, diseases that we've conquered are coming back because this kind of smallpox not in my backyard idea. It's like, I'm not, vaccines are good for other people, but not my kids.
You don't get
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, smallpox was eradicated. We can't bring it back because the World Health Organization and vaccines. We did actually get rid of smallpox, so it no longer exists on this planet.
I'm afraid that we've been avoiding vaccines so much it may be returning.
It's not possible. You have to release it from some laboratory.
Yeah, I think there's more like outbreaks of measles from like random things like measles parties, but I don't think there's been
kind of smallpox.
The last outbreak of smallpox was in like 1949, I think. So, but
the last case was like 1970 something, 1980 something.
Yeah, measles and mumps and stuff like that. But those are
Can we just take this moment to say thank you, World Health Organization, for conquering that one?
Old school WHO, not the new one.
I knew that trick you. Well, let's move on to these Greenpeace fuckers, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, let's move back on to issue 2. Got all my screens here. Greenpeace. Just a second. We had a little bit more of their video to play.
Sorry.
Here we are, Greenpeace and Jamie Dimon. All of a sudden, Jamie Dimon is a symbol of Bitcoin here. We see other Bitcoin CEOs, Larry Fink, being warned by name to stop this pollution. And one of the fascinating things that I think about this video, although they do have all these shots where it seems pretty clear they projected it on the walls, they could have just done this with computer graphics. All they have to really claim that this really happened in New York City is those kind of pathetic shots of the people holding up their phones and looking at the things. So kind of an unimpressive video, but let's look at the content here. Ben, Ark, what do you think? The Greenpeace environmental people are back. They're once again saying that Bitcoin uses the power of a whole country, and this is why we should stop.
Well, I mean, I thought it was a very good video. It's high quality, and I thought the as an installation, it's, you know, they developed the projector and they also directed sound thing for that installation when they were tackling, I think it was there's a documentary and it's about the meat industry, and then they built all that stuff for the meat industry, and then they've just reused the same projector, and then you can also direct sound as well, so people can hear it on the street, but they can be quite far away from where they're projecting the sound and the video. You're right. I mean, they could have done it just by like doing it in post-production. I thought the video was pretty cool. Like at the end, it did say it's time to clean up Bitcoin, and it didn't say it's time to get rid of Bitcoin. It says it's time to clean up Bitcoin, and there's a little green Bitcoin bee spinning around, which to me is almost an encouragement that encouraging us as an industry to use more renewables. So I thought that was very interesting. If my intuition is right, and they're suggesting that we clean up Bitcoin, that is a huge dialogue change from those on the environmentalist side when they're referencing and talking about Bitcoin, which would be a huge positive change. And if you look through the comments, there's a bunch of people talking about using renewables with Bitcoin. Yeah, go to see if we just wait till the last little shot, the last little video, and you'll see a green Bitcoin spinning around, and it'll say it's time to clean up. It's time to clean up Bitcoin. It's right towards the end, but it gave me a little bit there. This bit here. Watch this. Watch this. Oh no, not that bit. It's right there near the end. Keep it going. Here we go. Green Bitcoin. There we go. Clean up Bitcoin before it's too late. I mean, that's not saying get rid of Bitcoin. That's saying clean it up. So we can clean it up by using more renewables for mining. So good. You know, if that's the case, then I applaud you, Greenpeace, and we should be using renewables more for mining Bitcoin.
It does have that logo flashing between red and green, as if we had a chance to clean up Bitcoin. I do look forward to their pull request asking to change Bitcoin to proof of stake. I haven't seen it yet. But that was the previous discussion that people had with Greenpeace. Is they're like, of course, you could contribute to the code. We'd be pleased to see it. Convert us to proof of stake, follow Vitalik. If that is your dream for Bitcoin, propose it in the code. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the exciting Greenpeace graphics? As Ben said, it is nicely produced. There's several points where I'm excited that they're just putting a Bitcoin logo on such a big building, on such a big bridge. Even if it's got skulls with Bitcoin eyes or whatever it is, I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, I wish I could do that as a Bitcoin guy. Dan, what do you think?
I you know, it's a good advert for Bitcoin. I think most people will see it and probably start researching it, and then quickly be swung around to the fact that that a lot of it is powered by renewables. I like the classic Bitcoin bro CEOs, which if you look at Greenpeace's board is all bros, but obviously forgetting about that because it's okay if one's board is bros. Also, they've received a $5 million donation from Larson, Ripple. So there's this other chains maybe having a bit of a part in this, maybe a bit of Ethereum donations as well going there because of Ethereum going green, as it were. So we're kind of seeing this stuff. The laser-eyed things about Larry Fink. Obviously, Larry Fink came out publicly about Bitcoin recently, but Jamie Dimon, the last thing he said publicly about Bitcoin, having called it a fraud for years and blah blah blah, was Satoshi will laugh at you all. He said that when the 21 millionth Bitcoin is mined, that a picture of Satoshi will pop up laughing at everyone or something crazy like that. So calling him a Bitcoin green eyebrow, laser eyebrow is a bit. They need to probably do a little bit more research, like they needed to have done about the renewables as well. But often these things are kind of, that people are just a bit misguided on these things, right? Like all the environmentalists that go against nuclear power, which is clearly the cleanest form of power that we can have. But the intention is good, but they perhaps don't do their research on such things. Even things like there's been a lot of recent articles I've read up on wind turbines and the fact that they use like hideous amounts of oil, like 80 gallons of oil per year to operate, and it's not like it's reusable oil, or it's synthetic oil based on crude, they can't be recycled. So there's lots of, in all of these industries, there's lots of kind of hidden costs of collateral damage of something that seems renewable on the surface but has a huge impact on the environment and other resources. So I'd say bring back if you want to get Bitcoin green. There's I think go nuclear. Let's get more nuclear power stations on the go. That's because green radioactive waste is green, right? So I commend these people for their doing a nicety to the environment. But I also did read that not only were they funded by or had donations from Ripple, but the generators that they used were diesel-powered generators. So hypocrisy, I smite thee with my hypocrisy.
It's time for Greenpeace to get green. I agree with Dan. They should probably be running nuclear power. But before we run out of time, I have found the source of all truth when one is traveling, the Bitcoin Magic 8 Ball, the ball of all predictors. So, Ben Ark, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Last week we said higher, and it's lower, isn't it? I think. Is it? Yeah. Oh, that's sad. Lower. Then we're going to go more lower. I feel depressed now.
Ben's got lower. Dan, Eve, higher or lower?
I think we're not green enough for Greenpeace, so we'll be in the red again next week. Yeah, I'm with Ben on this.
I'm going to stick with higher, but here we go. Magic 8 Ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower? It is very hard to see. The travel 8 Ball may need it more light. The answer is, will the price be higher? Yes. Yes, the ball has spoken yes, unequivocally, 100% yes.
All right.
Check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got last week's live episode of the Bitcoin group. Dan, Ben, Josh, and Tom all there in person live on worldcryptonetwork.com. We've also got Vlad Coste and a brand new proof of work interview where we talk about Vlad's first computer. Check out next week where we've got Peter Todd, and the week after that for Thomas from Electrum Wallet. Some really good proof of work interviews that I managed to record while at Majorca Blockchain Days. Shout out to Majorca Blockchain Days. Moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, FTX again. Inside the private writings of Caroline Ellison, star witness of the FTX case, read about how Caroline didn't feel good about her job once she realized that $10 billion was missing, and how she had a hard time breaking up with her boyfriend, who also ran the company. You might be wondering why we're reading Caroline's private diaries in the New York Times. It turns out that perhaps Sam Bankman-Fried may have leaked Caroline's private diaries to paint her as a jilted lover. Yes, once again, the man knows no low. And according to Business Insider, he has leaked her journals. We've also heard that FTX was planning to buy the island nation of Nauru to survive a possible cataclysm. They said that the board at FTX's foundation was just a little bit apocalyptic and was afraid of the end of the world, planning to buy the island nation to build a bunker so that, fortunately, the FTX people could survive the end of the world. Dan, Eve, what do you think? What's worse, he leaked his girlfriend's diaries. His girlfriend's diaries are not very flattering. Or this fantastic plan to buy an island nation and build a bunker to survive the end of the world.
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack there. The thing that I thought straight away in the article was about how he's got 8 counts of fraud and election law violation. So doesn't it take 2 to tango? And if he's got election law violations, then surely there's someone on the other side of the election law who's been receiving said donations that's breaking some form of law. So will they be prosecuted as well? Or will this be another Epstein style case where after years of human trafficking of all these young girls, only a woman ends up going to jail randomly and no dudes are implicated? But forgetting that craziness, obviously, it's bad to leak people's private information. The interesting thing about this is that there's obviously a lot in her diary that kind of they're saying it was leaked because it makes her sound like a jilted lover, but these are her own words, right? So sounds like she sounds like a jilted lover because no one else wrote them, right? So maybe there's more to it than that. And at the end of the day, if someone's going to be going again, not that I'm in any way defending SBF, because he's a little defrauding toad, allegedly. But the fact is that if she's already going up against him along with others who've they're trying to they're pleading guilty, and then they're giving all the evidence against him specifically and trying to get a plea bargain and all of that sort of stuff, then you've lowered the bar, right? You've set the standards there, and if there's evidence that's going to be used against you because you're going to be providing evidence against someone else, then what better than to use your own words that talks about your own situation, how she was jealous about the other people's money that they were given during their time at FTX, when she also gave herself things like a 22.5 million bonus in March 22, which was actually when she announced that, when she realized or internally realized that there was a shortfall of 10 billion cash at FTX. So she knew how bad things were and she was fully in on the situation. So, I mean, obviously it's a bit below the belt releasing someone's diary, but it sounds like all the information in there very much implicates herself in her own wrongdoings. And while she's very apologetic about it, the fact is that she kind of did all that stuff. So kind of seems like she's implicating herself rather than. And the other thing was that they said about the using messages that SBF and his 3 cooperators exchanged on the messaging app Signal. So is that just because they got access to the phone, or is there I thought Signal was like the most secure encrypted app. Maybe it's not. They didn't kind of go into detail about how they got all their information. I'm assuming that they just managed to get hold of the phone, the phone and the code to get into it. But yeah, it's all the story that keeps on giving, right? It's and going to be a while until that court case happens. I think at least a couple of months. We still haven't heard whether Sam's been allowed to have his friends over for tea, because that was it last week, wasn't he? He said, "Boss, if Judge, can I have my friends over for tea because I'm a bit lonely from playing World of Warcraft online, and I want to see my friends in person." But again, innocent until proven guilty, even if you've already admitted your crimes on a podcast.
Now, I don't have the figures right here, Dan, but I think that her bonus of 22 million was actually very low. I think that the guys were getting hundreds of millions of dollars. So it did seem a bit unfair. If you just take it out on its own, though, it makes her look bad, because obviously $22 million is a lot of money.
It was actually even less than that. It was 6 million that she was remunerated with, but she gave herself a $22 million bonus. So yeah, it was pathetic. But she got like 6 million compared to 367 or something for one of the other co-founders or co-CEOs. But she made up for it by giving herself a huge bonus and then also investing another 10 million in her own company. And then giving herself 10 million of FTT shares, which she then banked in her own bank account. So she didn't do too badly out of the situation. And that's only the stuff that we know about, right? There may have been, as they were a couple, At the time, there may have been a bunch of sweetheart kind of money that may have exchanged hands, don't tell the others about this, so but one can only speculate, right, about this crazy situation that is FTX.
Also, as for the political money, we knew all of the Democratic donations because he did those in public through the normal channels. Sam said publicly at the time that he donated to the Republicans through the dark channels or the super PACs in the untraceable manner. Remember, the Republicans at the time used this to say that SBF is a Democrat and that he only bribed Democratic politicians, when in reality, if we take a step back, he bribed them both. But as far as who might be down for the illegal side of that, it could very well be these super PACs and things, which again, could also be totally legal dark money in our horrible system. It's completely a possibility. So let's go to Ben Ark. What do you think? They're also working on a private island in case of the apocalypse. They've built a bunker.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite clear that the reason Sam Bankman-Fried gets to stay at home, play World of Warcraft, and try and get his mates over is because he has dirt on everybody, and he's given a bunch of money out to a bunch of people who don't want other people to know that he's given a bunch of money out to them. And if the probators then go after those people and try and get those donations so they can give them back to the people who got wrecked by Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, then that would also be bad. So I think, like I said last week, they'll protect him. They're going to protect their boy for as long as possible until public opinion becomes outraged. Then, sky's the limit. Suicided, I don't know, thrown away in some prison somewhere and gagged so he can't speak ever again on it all. But yeah, so he's in a very precarious position, and like anything backed into a corner, he's just going to lash out with any tool he can. And one of those tools is the diary of his old girlfriend, which he's releasing to try and get some of the limelight off him and then onto her. He did try and blame her from the beginning, saying that he had no idea that this embezzlement had happened. Then, of course, he went on a podcast and said the opposite, but that was his original line. So he's kind of going back to that. He's going to try and shift the blame. It's to be expected. I imagine the signal that he probably just gave that to the investigation when they asked for it. So he's cooperating, and there's a bunch of people who don't want the wider world to know that Sam Bankman-Fried had paid them off, and that's why I guess his preferential treatment. In that article, it did say that there was a quote, and they were like, well, there's probably some other good uses for buying a country. So I do think that there was probably tactically some other business cases for owning a country, as opposed to just as a bunker in case the apocalypse happens. But this is a classic example of why you shouldn't trust anyone who seems like a genius. Because a bunch of people thought this kid was a genius. They gave him a load of money. They can trust him with loads of money. We all come across those people who are inspiring, and we think that they're geniuses, and actually they're just fucking idiots. And we should be very wary of anyone, particularly if they're asking for our money, which is what they were doing. But yeah, we just gotta kind of watch the trial. We don't get to watch. They're not going to broadcast this trial. It's like Gillian Anderson. They're not going to broadcast it. It's only like Johnny Depp and his breakup we get to watch on TV. We don't get to watch the actual juicy, important trials. But it'd be really interesting to see where this whole thing goes when it goes to trial. Whether he just gets suicided.
Well, I would like to follow up a little on that. While I do think the Epstein case is very fishy, in some cases, people do become desperate about their lives. SBF was on a track to billions of dollars. Though he drove a Honda Civic, he could have bought any car he wanted. If he realizes the reality of his prison case, of what he's done to people, if he had any feelings, it is possible that he would take care of himself on his own without the need for government conspiracy. So, just a possibility. Sometimes it is a suicide. All right. Let's move on to the next issue before my camera phone dies. Issue 4, grab bag. That's right. Investor group nears $125 million deal for Coindesk. Well, that must mean that the World Crypto Network is also worth $125 million. Sweet. It's very unlikely for this deal to be good for Coinbase or good for their independence, but it would be nice for them to survive the FTX and wider disaster. We also have a very sad story about Spiral grantee and Bitcoin programmer Chris Belcher. Chris is suffering from long COVID. He's had trouble dealing with light, having complex thoughts, and is just really down and unable to contribute to Bitcoin and Spiral as he used to. So it's a very sad story. We just wanted to highlight it. Our thoughts go out to Chris. There's not much that we can do, but if there's anything that anyone can do, they have his information here on Twitter. As well as Tesla appears ready to take Bitcoin payments again, putting the code into their website, but not turning it on yet. It's also been noted that Tesla has not sold any of their Bitcoin over the past few quarters, perhaps realizing what a horrible mistake they made in selling their Bitcoin in the first place. Ben Ark, choose from the grab bag. What would you like to talk about? Go ahead.
Didn't Tesla dump like 75% of their holdings for 900 million?
Right before the price went up. Absolutely.
Oh,
they haven't dumped since then.
They had $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, and then they dumped it. Oh, and they lost $1 billion almost, I suppose. I mean, obviously they've kept some, but I guess that's Q2, so we don't know what they've done in Q3, do we?
And it might sound like nonsense holder philosophy, but you only lose when you sell.
It's true.
And they sold.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't need the capital either. Like Tesla's doing pretty well at the moment. People are buying those cars. I see them everywhere. I think they said that they would put Bitcoin back on Tesla once it could be proved that 50% of the renewables was being, 50% of the mining was being done with renewables. And I mean, there's some Bitcoiners who are like, yeah, 80% of Bitcoin's mined renewables, which is nonsense. But I do think the number is getting quite close to that 50% mark. So maybe they are preparing to accept Bitcoin payments again, which would be absolutely phenomenal, because it would be, you had this huge FUD when they were like, they started accepting Bitcoin payments, and then suddenly we all realized that Elon Musk hadn't thought this through, because he did a little bit of reading, was like, oh, it turns out Bitcoin's bad for the environment, I might stop accepting these Bitcoin payments, and he became yet another billionaire who'd let us down. But from that FUD, because that did tank the price at the time, if they then turn around and start accepting Bitcoin payments again, then it'll be like, well, this is because Bitcoin is better than it was a couple of years ago whenever they accepted Bitcoin payments the first case. So that would be very positive. We can only talk about one of the three different stories, can we? The other one, the core developer with the long COVID thing, that's really sad. And these core developers are having a rough time at the moment. We've lost a few of them this one to illness, and that's very sad, and I hope he gets better soon. I saw a lot of the support for him as well in the Twitter thread, which I thought was very encouraging, because obviously within our community we have a lot of people who don't believe in COVID or whatever, and would probably usually argue against something like long COVID, but actually they were, like 99% of the comments were just comments of support and love and hoping that it gets better soon. So I think that was really encouraging. We've also lost a couple of core developers to, I think, maybe the fear of legal oppression by some parties within the, not Bitcoin world, but within the patent world. Poor core devs, they're getting having a bit of a bad run. So hopefully he'll get better soon. And I can't remember the first article. I will just stick to those two. Very bullish on the Tesla thing. Sad about the core dev.
Well, and sadly, there were, according to a tweet reply, some of the usual Bitcoin know-it-all scientist doctors telling him to drink apple cider vinegar get more exercise or whatever, which is all fine and good. But the guy has a serious problem. He's very sensitive to light. can't think properly. It's
just
not
have some
apple
ivermectin.
cider vinegar.
Go in the sun your balls, and eat some ivermectin. You'll be fine. Take multivitamins.
Sadly, that's what they brought up. But
Yeah.
on the other topic with the Tesla, it almost reminds me, Ben, of in the very early days when I would just read about Bitcoin whenever it come up in my feed. And you read one day that the EFF's accepting Bitcoin. You're very excited, right? It's here. And you read the next day they've stopped accepting Bitcoin. I'm like, oh no, it's not here. It's not right to the back of my mind. I'm sure it was $20 or something incredible. But yeah, in the same way, I think other people have that story where they say, Tesla accepted Bitcoin. I got all excited. Tesla stopped accepting Bitcoin. I forgot about it for 3 more years. So it'll be interesting to hear those people's stories in the future.
What would be cool though,
Dan,
if they accept Bitcoin this time round, what would be cool is if those charging stations start doing some pay-as-you-go Lightning stuff or Bitcoin stuff.
Right now, I think they're mainly credit card driven. And it is fantastic because whatever's in the charging thing communicates your user number or your user information in some way. So that as a customer, I just roll in, plug in, and it just goes. So it's a huge upgrade on the gasoline system where you have to do your card and sometimes your PIN, operate the machine, put the thing in there, and don't spill gas on you. It is a very nice system. Dan, Eve, choose from the grab bag. We've got Tesla, the Bitcoin developer not doing well, and another great story. I forget right now. Oh, it was the 125 million for Coindesk. How about that?
Yeah, well, I've got not much to say about that. But as in, I don't really know much about Coindesk, but obviously it's worth. They've got a huge follower base. They've got the Coinbase TV thing, so things sound like they're doing pretty good. Yeah, that sounds pretty. It sounds pretty good. The more money they've got, the more money they can reach out to teach people about Bitcoin, which is cool. With Chris Belcher, the core developer, he created the Electrum wallet server itself. What's it called? The Electrum personal server.
The professional server, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Well, he's obviously got some big contributions. It's sad to see here that he's in a sort of this state. There's also I've been watching because I used to watch quite a lot of I still do the physics girl, right? The on YouTube, and she's got the same thing. It sounds like it's sort of this long COVID or similarly, where she's sort of in hospital, just really lethargic, can't take sunlight, anything like that. So it seems like it's affected a few people in the kind of in the science.
And we're supposed to not be political, but I do just want to say that's why you didn't want to expose the entire society to COVID. There was a possibility of these long COVID problems popping up in very small cases. And that was the risk of exposing society-wise.
But in fairness, though, isn't there like no science for like conclusion yet on like long COVID, and if it even exists, it's kind of all.
I mean, it could. It's a huge mental trauma. The whole COVID. Whatever. So whether it's physical or psychological, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're still suffering, aren't they? But yeah, it's.
I don't think there's a lack of consensus about long COVID. I think it exists. I think we don't know how to fix it, which is the unfortunate part.
I keep on hearing a lot of disputes as to whether it's kind of a real a thing, whether it's been concluded on yet. There's not enough data, but it obviously sounds like it's something's affecting some people that have after having COVID. Whether it's a significant portion of the population. And the last thing was the Tesla. Well, that's cool, accepting Bitcoin again, right? At the end of the day, they've obviously made a bit of a decision that they wouldn't go back to Bitcoin if there wasn't more than 50% renewables. So I was actually going to critique Tesla on wait until they hear about the child labor going into mining cobalt, which is actually true. But also, I did read that Tesla charging stations, I think, where they're from 2021 or end of 2021, the Tesla charging stations used pure renewables. I read. I don't know if that's true or not, which is which fair play to them. So at least the Tesla charging stations are actually immune to the argument that, well, your Tesla's being charged by coal power plants anyway. However, obviously, there's people that still charge their Teslas at home and non-Tesla power plant, charging plants, etc. Blah blah blah. But it's a good thing, right, that they're using renewables. But also going back to the fact that they're accepting Bitcoin, if they're making a decision that there's more than 50% renewables and there's enough research to show that, then again, this is a positive thing for Bitcoin. It's helping. Maybe it's going to swing a few Greenpeaces who actually would now be aware that Bitcoin uses more than 50% renewables. So, and it's making its way, steadily more towards 100 because of the reasons we talk about time and time again about how excess energy is the cheapest, and there's also a lot of excess energy from if you're not using the energy from a giant dam, that energy is going to waste, so you might as well be using it to mine Bitcoin, and the same for methane flaring, etc. So I think it's positive that they do accept Bitcoin. But the real question, of course, is whether they'll accept Dogecoin again.
I do think it's worth noting on the Coindesk issue, while it's fun to compare them to World Crypto Network, one of their major assets is the Coincensus conference in New York City. They've worked incredibly hard to build that as a major conference. They have an excellent mailing list. And as I'm sure we all recall, when the Money 2020 conference was sold to that even larger conference company, the main thing they wanted was the cool mailing list of all the Money 2020 payments people, in the same way the Coincensus conference is offering a really cool mailing list of all the Bitcoin and crypto people. So keep that in mind. It is a major asset that will be sold with Coindesk. All right, I think we're running out of time. Let's go to Dan Eve. Are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Story of the week. It's got to be New York Blockchain Days. Another incredible conference. Learned a lot, met a lot of cool new people. And there's some really great talks there. So I think if you can get to yourself to New York Blockchain Days, and it's really deceiving, right? The title New York Blockchain Days, and we're speaking to Chris about this. That you say blockchain, and people think, oh, they're using the blockchain. They're using the blockchain in vain. But it is mainly Bitcoin. It's mainly Bitcoin and Liberty, and this is the cool thing about the conference. Rather than it being one of these kind of cheesy, hey, it's blockchain, we're going to use blockchain to check out how we can store tomatoes on the chain, or something like that. Not that all Dutch people create ICOs about tomatoes on chains or anything like that. Maybe that wasn't even Dutch, I don't know. It's a great conference, and great weather, great venue, really good. Congrats to Chris and the team for organizing such a cool conference. And although I did it in a really and I know that you said not to do this, I like literally before I even did it, I was like, now I've got a caveat that it's a really bad thing. I've only just written it in the last week or so, and I'm not going to do a very good job, but I'm glad I did manage to do the first attempt at the new Bitcoin tune. So hopefully I'll do release the kind of the refined version soon. But it was another honor to perform at New York Blockchain Days, and so really excited for it next year already.
I agree with Dan. It was great to hang out with the crew at New York Blockchain Days. What's nice about this conference is the speakers pretty much hang out with the rest of the attendees, so you really get to know the speakers you might want to ask them big questions, or you might just want to hang around, see if they drop some knowledge. It was also a beautiful location with a nice pool and an excellent bar with some sandwiches and stuff. It was just a really nice time to chill out with some Bitcoiners. I've been having a great time here in Spain. I went to the Picasso Museum, the Mocha Museum, saw some NFTs in an art gallery, that kind of thing. And I made it to one of the Gaudi houses, the Casa Batlló. It's great here in Barcelona. Ben Ark, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Same, I think. New York Blockchain Days was a fantastic event, as always. I've been for the past 3 years now, I think. It's just been great. It's always a small event, and it doesn't get. I don't think enough people go to it because I think it's it's the one event a year where I'm like, I'm definitely going to go to that, and I pencil it in, and I'm definitely going to go to that, because it's like you say, because quite often, sometimes you go to these conferences and there's this like, they'll grab all the speakers and they'll take them off to the little speaker meal, and then they'll try and spoil the speakers, and they keep separating them away from the attendees, and it's really like, it's forced. Like the speakers are there because they're Bitcoiners, and they actually just want to hang out in a room and talk Bitcoin like the rest of us, So in Mallorca Blockchain Days, we're just all in the same hotel, and it's a beautiful location, like you say. And there's no barrier to people. And like Thomas from Electrum, that guy's like a superstar. But you can sit down and have a chat with him there, and any questions you've got, or you just want to have a conversation with them, or like Peter Todd or whoever, like the Amir Taki's been a good couple of years, there was that economist guy. The guy came up with quantitative easing. I had like a huge debate with him, not debate, but like a good chat with him. So I had an Austrian economist here, and then I had the quantitative easing guy here, and I was kind of in the middle chatting to them both in a bar, and I was thinking, and there was a girl actually took a picture, and I was thinking, I really need to get my hands on that picture, because it was Raheem, the Austrian economist. I can't remember his full name, but they're both like well-respected economists in their own fields. So yeah, no, if you can get to that conference next year, please do go to it. It's wonderful. And there was a couple of WCNers here at the conference as well, so it was great to see them. And if you're watching, hello. It was good to finally, to meet you in real life. But yeah, Mallorca Blockchain Days, what a conference.
Is there a song cover in that, Ben? Quantitative easing guide to the left of me.
Austrian economist, am I right? Here I am. And they had so much common ground as well. It's funny because when people engage on social networks, there's all this conflict. But then when you're in that real world meet space, like you just kind of pals, like you just Bitcoiners hanging out, and you've got so much common ground. So it's really good for strengthening bonds between people in our ecosystem. And Dan, I didn't get to watch your actual performance on the day, but you gave me a little brief demo of your new song, and it was flipping cool, and I can't wait for like the official release of it. Are you gonna do a Stasi video like you did for the
yeah. I'll do some AI stuff, some sort of pictures and stuff.
I like the one you did, the one you did where it was just you singing into a microphone with a flat cap.
Oh yeah, cool. I lost that actually a long while ago. I think it was when I took it to New York to wrap up one of the blockchain events.
Oh, the flat cap.
Yeah, the flat cap. Sadly, so that's gone. But yeah, I was going to do something more like, obviously this one was from the Hotel Poloniex video, but which was stolen from borrowed from the Tesla, not Tesla, SpaceX thing about the moon. So I'm going to just use what I thought about doing for this video is just take for each kind of sentence or each like verse, pump that into Midjourney and just see what it comes up with, and just that is like you know what I mean. So just like,
oh yeah, that's cool.
And see, or like a morph of them or something like that, and just see what it does, and just kind of just mash it all together. But yeah, so I'm going to start work on that pretty soon. But
nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to try and get down to, I think the weather's not so. There's the Bitcoin Avon Valley.
Oh, yes, very good point. Well done. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, Avon Valley Bitcoin Adventure, that's happening tomorrow and Sunday. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm going to do a workshop, also a talk on Nostar stuff, I think. And Dan, you said you were going to go and try and get down there, but you said the weather's not looking so good. Hopefully, you'll be able to get down there. But that's a great event. Lots of Bitcoiners just hanging out together. If you didn't plan on going, then it's not too late. Just turn up. The tickets, you can buy them at the door. I think you can buy them on site, can't you? You don't have to pre-buy them or anything. And it's cheap. It's like 10 or 20 quid or something. And last year, there was some great Bitcoiners there. The Bridge for Bitcoin people were there. Open Noms was there. There's some really good UK Bitcoiners who were able to sit down and have a chat with. So Self-Banked was there. Love that guy. So if you can get to it, even if you didn't plan on going to it, just hop in the car tomorrow morning. It's worth the drive, or hop on a train and come to Avon Valley Bitcoin Adventure. Will be good.
I think. Oh, is Victoria Jones as well? I think she's there.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. She's going as well. Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to seeing her again. Even though I saw her about 4 days ago in New York blockchain days, but yeah, that'd be good to catch up as well. Yeah.
Well, thanks again to everybody for watching. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Push subscribe if you haven't already. I did this episode on my iPhone and my laptop, and I'm not sure if Zoom is set up for that. So I'm curious to see how it turned out. I hope it turned out well. Thanks to everybody for joining us. And until next time, bye.